Where are you right now? Are you safe? I asked Jesus, worried about him being near a fire. But he seems annoyed and tells me he's at work before hanging up. I'm puzzled because it doesn't make sense for him to be working near a fire. When I realize he's not where he said he was, I start to suspect him of lying. I've been planning something for a while now, and it's time to put my plan into action. My name is Julia Bones, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a nurse in a hospital where I help many patients every day. I've always been good at caring for others, and I find joy in it. Nursing feels like my true calling. I'm married to Jace, and we've been happily married for 2 years. We live in company housing provided by his job, and I cherish our life together. I met Chase 3 years ago at a party where some friends were hanging out. Jace, who tends to get shy, drank a lot and ended up getting drunk pretty quickly. Even though we had just met, I couldn't leave him alone in that state, so I took care of him at my place. The next day, Jace didn't remember anything, but he said something serious like, "I'll take responsibility," which made me burst into laughter. I had to explain to him what happened, and he felt embarrassed and apologized. That's how our relationship started, and we got married a year later. Now, as we're nearing our third year of marriage, we haven't had any kids yet, but I believe we can create a loving family together. Lately, Jace has been really busy with work, especially on weekends, and he often comes home acting distant. Even when we're relaxing together on the couch watching TV, he's always glued to his phone, sighing a lot. At first, I wondered if I did something to upset him, but I couldn't think of anything. As time went on, I started to worry about his health, so I began researching balanced meals and cooking healthier meals for his lunches and dinners. That day, my hospital had 2 shifts, day and night. I was supposed to work the night shift, but a colleague asked me to switch to the day shift, so I did. I meant to tell Jace about the change, but I ended up telling him on the day itself. I messaged him, saying, "I'm working the day shift today, so I'll cook dinner and wait for you." But he took a while to reply. Normally, he'd respond quickly and even use emojis, but lately his replies have been short. I wondered if he was just busy or if this was normal after being married for 2 years. Feeling a bit lonely, I rushed home after work to cook a good meal again. Cooking went really well today. I took a quick photo of the meal and posted it on my cooking account on social media. I enjoy cooking for Jace, but sharing my cooking on social media has become something I like too. A few minutes after posting, I got a notification, a comment from one of my cooking friends. I've been chatting with someone I met through my cooking account on social media lately. It's nice to have a connection outside of work, and it makes me happy. While I was chatting online, Jace came home from work. I quickly reheated the food I made and said, "Welcome home. Dinner's ready. Was your day busy again?" "Thanks, yeah, I guess I am. I'm pretty tired," Jace replied, changing into his comfy clothes and sinking into his chair, looking exhausted. I brought the reheated food over to him. "Yeah, a colleague needed my help with something urgent. Sorry I didn't tell you earlier," I explained as I sat down at the table to eat. "Let's dig in." "It's okay. It was last minute, but just let me know sooner next time. Sometimes I make plans to hang out with coworkers," Jace said. "Ah, got it," I replied, noticing Jace hadn't been eating much. "Is the food not to your liking? Did I mess up the flavors?" I asked, concerned. Jace stopped mid-bite and looked at me with an awkward expression. "No, it's not that. I just don't feel hungry right now." "Sorry, I'll save it for breakfast tomorrow," Jace said, forcing a laugh. "Thanks for cooking, though." He stood up from the table and headed towards the bathroom, leaving more than half of the food untouched, just as I suspected. I followed him to the bathroom. "Hey, are you feeling all right? You haven't seemed yourself lately. I'm worried about you. Maybe you should see a doctor," I suggested. Jace, brushing his teeth, rinsed his mouth and chuckled at my concern. "I'm okay. Maybe I just need to get back into exercising. I'm going for a walk now." "Okay," Jace said, straightening himself up and quickly making his way to the front door. "I'll be fine. he reassured as he declined my offer to join him. Even more worried, I decided to secretly follow him outside, just in case he needed help if something happened. Though that's what I told myself, deep down, there was another worry brewing in my heart. To my surprise, Jace walked briskly and stopped at a park not far from our house. He looked around and appeared to be texting someone on his phone. Soon, a white car pulled up, and Jace approached it. He exchanged a few words with the person inside, a young woman with long curly hair, giving off a flirtatious vibe. I instinctively took out my phone and snapped a photo. Before I could fully comprehend what was happening, Jace got into the car, and they drove off together. Shock, confusion, suspicion, and a whirlwind of emotions filled my mind, leaving me frozen in place. Then, a message from Jace came. Met a friend unexpectedly. I'll be home late. A friend? The image of him with the woman lingered in my mind, and I couldn't bring myself to believe his explanation. That night, Jace didn't come home until after 1 a.m., and my anxiety was through the roof. Tears streaming down my face, I showed him the photo I had taken. When he saw the photo, Jace froze for a moment, then quickly brushed it off with a laugh. Oh, I just bumped into a client salesperson while I was out walking. I was just giving them some advice, nothing more. Please trust me, he pleaded, looking at me with a sad expression, as if he was the victim, shutting down any further questions. After that, Jace's work became incredibly hectic, and I found myself working overtime often when I was on the day shift. Despite our conflicting schedules, I tried to bring up the incident from before, but he always brushed it off with excuses like, I'm tired, I worked late yesterday, or I'm working on my day off today, really. During work, whenever I relaxed, thoughts of Jace and that woman being close would creep into my mind, making me feel uneasy. After finishing my night shift, the morning sun felt harsh on my tired eyes. I realized I hadn't been taking care of myself lately because of all the worry and anxiety. So, I decided to stop by a cake shop that opened early in the morning and bought myself a cake. With my mood slightly lifted, I left the store and took a different route home. There were many hotels in the area, and I often saw couples who seemed to be up to something. But maybe because it was early morning, the area was quiet. As I walked carefully to avoid damaging the cake, thoughts like, I have some tea at home, maybe we can enjoy it together, crossed my mind. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a young man and woman coming out of a hotel on the opposite sidewalk. I glanced over casually, but then I froze. There was Jace, with his sleepy smile, and the woman with the long curly hair from the car that day smiling back at him. The cake slipped from my hand and splattered on the ground. In that moment, all I could think about was gathering evidence. With trembling hands, I took out my phone and snapped a picture of them arm in arm, smiling at each other. They looked like a couple in the photo. My heart raced, and I broke out in a cold sweat, realizing that Jace had been lying to me. All I could see was the fallen cake box and the damning photo of them staring back at me. In the back of my mind, I knew I couldn't stay with him anymore. One day, after a series of events confirmed my suspicions about Jace, the word divorce started to feel like a real possibility. I was working my usual day shift, busy with tasks. Suddenly, I heard sirens in the distance, signaling that fire trucks were passing through the neighborhood. It wasn't just one truck, but 2 or 3 in a row, which made me worry that there might be a fire nearby. After finishing a phone call and taking a moment to catch my breath, 2 colleagues returned from a patient's room, discussing how frightening it was. Good job. What's going on? I asked, sensing there might be trouble. They lowered their voices and told me there's a fire at Company A. A patient we passed in the hall mentioned it. Company A? A fire? Those words sent a shiver down my spine. Excusing myself from my colleagues and clutching my phone tightly, I hurried to a quiet spot. Company A, where the fire was reported, was where Jace worked. With a sense of dread, I called Jace. Like every morning, I had seen him off to work. Since the events that had unfolded, we hardly saw each other at home and rarely spoke. but I never missed saying goodbye to him in the morning. "Please pick up," I whispered to myself, hoping Jace would answer. After several rings, I heard his voice on the other end, asking, "Hello? Where are you? Are you okay?" Despite my half-shouted relief, Jace sounded annoyed. "What's going on all of a sudden? I'm at work, you know. Don't call me during work hours," he grumbled before hanging up abruptly. All I heard was the end of call beep in my ear. While I was glad to know Jace wasn't in the fire, I felt a deep unease. It didn't make sense for him to be working, as if nothing was happening. His dismissive attitude towards my concern only added to my frustration. He probably wasn't at work at all. I saw him off to what I thought was his workplace, but it must have been somewhere else. Maybe all this time, without realizing it, I've been seeing him off to another woman's place. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw shimmering long curly hair. With determination, I dialed a certain person's number on my clenched phone. After finishing my work safely, I rushed home and started packing up the furniture and appliances in the house. Then the doorbell rang, ding-dong. But it wasn't Jace at the door. It was a friend from college who knew about my situation with Jace and had offered to help me leave. Despite my sudden request for help moving my belongings from work, she readily agreed. "Thank you so much. I'll treat you to something next time," I said, feeling apologetic. But she just smiled and replied, "You've been through a lot, haven't you? I'm always here to help." I felt grateful for having such a good friend, a feeling that had faded recently, and my heart warmed. Together, we moved out the furniture, appliances, and clothes I had prepared into the car. The room, now empty of the belongings I had accumulated since my single days, felt stark and bare. Looking around, I questioned if I had any lingering attachments to my past life. "No, I don't need it anymore," I decided, feeling no pull to stay. With determination, I headed towards an apartment near my workplace. On the day I saw Jace leaving a hotel with another woman, I had rushed to a real estate agent. I wasn't sure about divorce yet, but I had rented the apartment just in case. I felt satisfied with my decision. I unpacked the items in the apartment and then remembered something. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number, waiting for the robotic voice guidance to start. Hours later, after settling in from the move, I was taking a break when I received a call. Glancing at the display, I saw Jace's name. I took a deep breath before answering. "Hello. Julia, where are you? I came home to an empty house, and my phone isn't working. What's going on?" Jace's voice sounded frantic. "Most of the stuff at home belonged to me, so I took it with me. And as for the phone, it was in my name, so I canceled it," I calmly explained. His voice remained anxious. "Wait, my phone isn't working." "Well, I can only use Line because I'm connected to Wi-Fi. But more importantly, you said you took the stuff. You're not seriously running away, are you? This is a joke, right?" Jace's voice was filled with disbelief. As I listened to Jace still not grasping the situation, my irritation grew. "Are you seriously saying that? Don't tell me you forgot about the call this afternoon. Someone who's at work can't just keep working calmly when there's a fire happening, right?" Struggling to control my anger, I asked something I had wanted to know for a long time. "Where were you and who were you with instead of going to work?" There was a moment of silence from Jace. Then, reluctantly, he began to speak. "Look, the story about bumping into a female client while walking? It was a lie. The truth is, she's a colleague from work, and I was at her place today." "What?" Jace's confession was exactly what I had anticipated. He had been involved with the company receptionist, Savannah, for about 6 months. They would meet on the days I worked the night shift. Lately, as Savannah became more demanding, he had started lying about working overtime on his days off just to see her. Today, they had both taken paid leave and spent the day at Savannah's house. They only found out about the fire when Savannah's phone rang with a call from their office. After confessing everything, Jace pleaded over the phone, "I want you to forgive me." What a joke, I thought bitterly. "I'm glad to finally hear the truth from you, Jace," I said. Despite our short marriage, I had been trying to build a good family life. Jace tried to interrupt, but I didn't let him. I want a divorce because of your infidelity. Let's handle the details through our lawyers. Goodbye. Afterwards, the fire at company made headlines in the local news, becoming a big story. When I saw the news, I was stunned. The culprit behind the fire was none other than Jace's mistress, Savannah. Early in the morning, Savannah sneaked into the company's conference room, pulled a thread from the edge of a curtain, and lit it with a lighter. The fire spread quickly, burning down the conference room. Thankfully, the building itself suffered only minor damage. Surveillance footage clearly showed Savannah as the perpetrator. As for her motive, Savannah claimed that the married man she was dating wouldn't divorce his wife, and even her threats of exposing their relationship had no effect. She believed she had to do something drastic. Honestly, I couldn't understand why anyone would commit a crime just to be with Jace. However, according to Savannah's colleagues, she often complained about feeling lonely. Perhaps she envied the married man who seemed to have it all, thinking that being with him would fill her own loneliness. Thinking about it, I realized that feeling lonely even when you're with someone else is far more painful. Since discussing divorce with Jace, we hadn't been in direct contact, but our lawyers were handling the proceedings. Meanwhile, I heard about what was happening at Jace's company. After the fire, Jace, who was unaware of what had happened, was shocked to learn the truth from the company's general affairs representative. Savannah was arrested immediately, and news of their relationship spread rapidly throughout the company. Unable to bear the gossip any longer, Jace resigned from his job. Hearing about all this, I felt a tiny bit of sympathy for Jace, but mostly, I believed he had brought it upon himself by choosing another woman. With that in mind, I went through the divorce process without much emotion, and we successfully divorced. The evidence of Jace's infidelity, captured in the photos I had taken, made the process smooth. Additionally, I ensured that Jace paid proper alimony from his severance pay. Now that my connection with Jace was completely severed, I enjoyed living alone in my new apartment, where I had settled in nicely. Perhaps I had neglected myself by always prioritizing others. While continuing my job as a nurse, I started to rediscover the joy of cooking, which had been my greatest pleasure during my marriage with Jace, but now just for myself. In the morning, I opened the window of my apartment to let in the fresh air. Glancing outside, I saw a happy family of 3 walking together. Seeing them, I felt no regret at all. Instead, I felt excited thinking about my future. Just then, my phone buzzed. Returning to my room, I couldn't help but smile at the screen. I had hit it off with someone I met through a cooking account on social media, and we had become close quickly. We had planned to cook together that day. Responding to the message saying, "I'll be there soon," I began preparing the meal we were going to cook.